Dear students, welcome to my class. Today our topic is the introduction of human rights. So let's begin. Human rights are those rights which has been conferred to individuals by the states in the modern international law. Human beings are considered as the most rational beings. So, by virtue of their being human, possess certain basic and inalienable rights. Such rights are commonly known as human rights. Since these rights belong to them by virtue of their being existent, they become operative with their birth, and these rights are inherent to all individuals irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, sex, etc. Human rights are based on the concept that people everywhere deserves same moral status, dignity and entitlements. These rights are necessary as they create an environment where people can develop their full potential. The prototype of this idea, that is modern human rights, developed in early modern Europe. Philosophers like Gracius, Hobbes, and Locke believed that human rights have been derived from the principle of eternal law, which is also something called divine law or law of reason. It is considered that natural law finds its source either in God or reason. The theory of natural rights clearly derives from the concept of natural law. These rights are those interests which are recognized and protected by a rule of natural justice. Like every human beings have certain rights which is inseparable from him, like right to life, liberty, etc., because they arose from the very nature of man. So, students, before learning human rights in the modern world, you should be well aware of the history and background of human rights. First was the Cyrus cylinder in 539 BC. Cyrus the Great was the first king of ancient Persia, whose armies conquered the city of Babylon in 539 BC. But his next action was marked as an advancement in protecting the mankind. He freed the slaves and declared that all people had the right to choose their own religion, and he established racial equality. Such decrees has been recorded on a baked clay cylinder in the Akkadian language today, which is known as Cyrus cylinder, and this ancient record has now been recognized as the world's first charter of human rights. Second is the Magna Carta. In 1215, after King John violated a number of ancient laws and customs by which England had been governed, his subjects forced him to sign the Magna Carta, which enumerated the rights of the people. Among them, the most significant were the rights of the church to be free from the governmental interference, second, the rights of citizen to own and inherit property, and third, the citizen should be protected from excessive taxes. It actually established principle of due process and equality before law. The third one is the Petition of Rights. It is the next recorded milestone in the development of human rights, which was produced in 1628 by the English Parliament and was sent to Charles I as a statement of civil liberties. The Petition of Rights, initiated by Sir Edward Coke, asserted four basic principles. First, no tax should be levied without consent of Parliament. Second, no subject should be imprisoned without any cause shown. Third, no soldiers may be quartered upon citizenry. And lastly, martial law may not be used in time of peace. The next one is the Constitution of United States of America, which is the fundamental law of the US federal system of government and the landmark document of the Western world, and which was written during the summer of 1787 in Philadelphia. It is the oldest written national constitution in use that defines the basic rights of citizens. It is basically from this particular document only the Constitution of India adopted the concept of fundamental rights, which has been enumerated under Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Then comes the United Nations. Actually, after the First World War, the League of Nations were formed, but the failure of the League of Nations resulted in the outbreak of World War II, which raged from 1939 to 1945. In April 1945, delegates from 50 countries met in San Francisco with a goal to make an international body to promote peace and future wars. Thus, the United Nations Organization was formed so that no more war should be seen by the human race in the future. Then on 10th December 1948, the UDHR was adopted as the Magna Carta for all mankind. So students, when you are learning about human rights, you have to know there are actually three kinds of human rights. French jurist Carol Vassat classified these rights into three categories: the first generation rights, the second generation rights, and the third generation rights. The first generation is the civil and political rights. Civil rights or liberties are referred to those rights which are related to the protection of the right to life and personal liberty. These rights are essential for a dignified life, and political rights may be referred to those rights which allow a person to participate in the government of a state. The nature of civil and political rights may be different, but they are actually interwoven and interrelated. These rights derive primarily from the 17th and 18th century. These rights are sometimes called freedom from and also termed as negative rights. Now, why they are called negative rights? Because the government has to abstain from doing certain activities so that those rights of the individuals are not violated. Whereas the second generation rights, the economic, social, and cultural rights, are the freedom to, and they are related to the guarantee of minimum necessities of life to human beings. In the absence of these rights, human life will actually be endangered. Now you have right to life, but you have no right to food, or you have no right to get medical assistance. You cannot enjoy your right to life as a human right. So for enjoyment of civil and political rights, these economic, social, and cultural rights are very important. And the examples of these type of rights are right to shelter, right to food, etc. The first generation rights are called negative rights, but these rights are called positive rights because the government has to do certain positive actions to ensure such rights to the human beings. And the third one is the third generation rights, which are sometimes called collective rights, like right to development or right to environment. These rights are not individual in nature. To achieve such right, group awareness is required, and such rights can only be achieved collectively. Now, if you want to have a peaceful environment and a clean environment, only your personal activity will not make the environment clean. You have to have a group of people who are working on that particular matter, who are working together to clean the environment. Now development does not mean your only singular development. The development of the society is the development overall of the state. That's why these rights are called collective rights. The protected interest of the human beings are termed as human rights. In the modern time, it is very important to protect these rights. After the First World War, the League of Nations were formed in the year 1919, but the failure of the League of Nations led to the outbreak of World War II. When humanity was almost devastated, there was a great need to restore peace in the world. The United Nations were formed in the year 1945, which was marked as an international human rights regime. Later on, various treaties, conventions, etc., were adopted for the protection and promotion of human rights. So, when you are learning human rights, you should be well aware of the sources of human rights. The international human rights law derives from a variety of sources. Firstly, treaties are the most important source of international human rights law. There are a number of treaties relating to human rights in force which are legally binding to those states which are party to them. If the states are not party to them, they are not binded by those particular treaties. Secondly, certain human rights acquired customary status. Their widespread practice by the states made them legally binding upon those states. Now, over here, no consent is required. Those states who are practicing such customs, it is not necessary that they have consented to such thing or not. They have been practicing for a long time, so they are bound by such customs. Thirdly, a large number of international declarations, resolutions relating to human rights have been adopted, which led to the development of human rights. Fourthly, although actions of International Court of Justice are very limited, it does not create any precedent. Still, the decisions of various judicial bodies forms the prime source of international human rights law. And lastly, official documents of the United Nations and its subsidiary bodies such as human rights journals, reviews, etc., forms a large source of international human rights law. Now, to protect and promote human rights, certain ways have been adopted by the United Nations organization. Those are first, human rights consciousness. The people should be well aware of their rights. If the people is not well aware of their right, they cannot protect their own right. Neither the other international organizations can protect their rights if the people are not actually aware of their own rights. Second is the codification of the law of human rights. We need to codify such laws which are still unwritten, which are governed by customs and traditions, which are for the advancement of mankind. Thirdly, monitoring of human rights. The United Nations have many agencies which monitors upon the human right actions of the states, and there should be fourthly a procedure for individual complaints. There should be a procedure by which an individual can complain in the international forum, and the compilation of information should be done perfectly, so that if our paperwork is perfect, we can do the field work properly. And then we have to have a proper examination of the situation. If a issue on human right crops up, before implementing certain laws, we have to have a proper examination. The United Nations have a proper body for examining certain situation of human rights. And then we have to coordinate human right activities to the people. And not only that, we also have to lastly provide advisory services. We have to advise people on how to act on certain situations and how to be aware of their own rights. Thank you, students, for being so patient. If you have any problem regarding any matters relating to this lecture, please comment in the comment box below. Thank you.